Konnichiwa, Japan fans. In today's show, we're going to talk about enthusiasm. Present or master shimashou. This is the fourth year of the Presentations Japan series podcast, and we are beaming around the world to you from sunny Minato-ku here in Tokyo. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, your corporate coaching and training guy, committed to your success, the president of Dale Carnegie Training Japan, and best-selling author, Japan Sales Mastery and Japan Business Mastery. My new book, Japan Presentations Mastery, will be released shortly. Through this podcast, I want to help you become a better speaker who is clear, confident, persuasive, and highly influential with those around you. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with your family, friends, and colleagues. We are not being sponsored by Libsyn, but we value your privacy, which is why we have our podcast hosted by Libsyn, who, unlike many other podcast hosts, have a strict policy that does not allow access to your private information by anyone. Here is our daily podcast lineup on iTunes. Mondays, the Cutting Edge Japan Business Show. Tuesdays, the Presentations Japan series. Every second Tuesday, the Business Tatsujin no Oshie Show. Wednesdays, the Sales Japan series. Thursdays, the Leadership Japan series. Every second Thursday, the Business Pro Podcast Show. Fridays, the Japan Business Mastery Show. And Saturdays, Japan's top business interviews. This is episode number 256, and today we're talking about if you want to be enthusiastic, act enthusiastic. The idea of having enthusiasm would seem to be pretty obvious for someone presenting. In some cases, though, we're just presenting information and getting massively enthusiastic about a bunch of not particularly illuminating numbers would be difficult. Often, internal meetings are like this. We have to give our report on the revenue and client numbers or the trend with visitors to our stores or whatever. These are factual reports, and if we were to suddenly start gushing with breathless enthusiasm, our bosses and colleagues may regard us with deep suspicion that we have lost our marbles. If we want our listeners to agree with our suggestions or to take action, then we definitely need enthusiasm. If we are in the persuasion business, then enthusiasm has to be a staple of our presentations. Last week's episode was all about the dark failings of Prime Minister Suga as a communicator. I had the unfortunate bad luck to be watching his media conference announcing the extension of the state of emergency. It was seriously painful to watch. I was reminded of how important enthusiasm was by sitting through his long press conference where there wasn't a trace of enthusiasm in his presentation. In the end, I couldn't take any more and turned the television off. I'm not being facetious when I talk about pain in this case. Whether it is Suga or anyone else, if their job is to influence us or persuade us and they attempt that without marshalling any enthusiasm, it is physically painful to sit there and be exposed to that. So let's flip it around and think about when it is our turn to be the influencer, the persuader. How are we approaching this task? Are we just buffeting our audience with a data dump with an extended avalanche of statistics? Numbers are dead, by the way. They only have life injected into them by having context applied. When we do that, the relativities become clearer. Explaining the background helps explain their relevance. How often, though, have we been served up spreadsheets on screen or a bunch of line graphs crowded together on screen? This is very common speaker behavior and a big pain receptor. We need to find poignant stories about those numbers that make them really come alive. We need to place them in context with the current business situation and commercial trends. What do they portend for the organization? We need to contrast them with other figures so we have some sense of perspective. Find out more. We come back from the break. Our show today is brought to you by our public programs, but we also do custom-made in-house classes. Now, we do them in our super safe classroom, we do them live online, and we do them in Japanese, and we do them in English. Today's show is brought to you by, on the 19th of October, we are doing storytelling. On the 28th of October, time management. November 4th and 5th, we're doing high-impact presentations, and the 11th of November, successful public speaking. Check out our website at www.dale, D-A-L-E, hyphen, Carnegie, C-A-R-N-E-G-I-E, .co.jp. Lots and lots of value for you there. Now, to do better in Japan, email me at greg.story@dalecarnegie.com. Get my best-selling books, Japan Sales Mastery, that's the Bible for selling in Japan, and Japan Business Mastery, and my new book, Japan Presentations Mastery. If you like learning by watching videos, there are over 1,000 there for you at Tokyo, Japan, Dale Carnegie TV on YouTube. We release 3 TV shows every week on YouTube. The Cutting Edge Japan Business Show, which is the premier business show in Japan, comes out Mondays. Fridays, the Japan Business Mastery Show, and Saturdays, Japan's top business interviews, where I interview leaders in Japan from SMEs all the way up to the corporate captains of industry on one topic, leading in Japan. Every second Thursday, we release the Business Pro Television Show. Don't forget, you can email me at greg.story@dalecarnegie.com. Welcome back. Instead, what do we get? I know you can't see this, but as the speaker drones on, throwing up a spreadsheet in tiny fonts, overwhelming us with a blizzard of numbers, why do they do that? Obviously, no clue and no training would be the answer. Rather, they could use animation and show a pop-up balloon with a single number displayed in very large font so we can read it easily. They can then enthusiastically tell us the story of that number and what it represents. That will be memorable and impactful. When speakers talk with zero or very low energy like Suga, they mystically suck all of the energy out of the room, and suddenly you feel worse than before they started. In the opposite case, the transfer of speaker energy to the audience has an uplifting effect, and the world looks better immediately. Their enthusiasm becomes contagious, and suddenly everything looks a lot better to us. Which variety of speaker would you like to be known as? The uplifter or the energy thief? Having passion for your subject is required. Even if the topic itself is rather humdrum and mundane, let's try and find something in there that will be of interest to an audience. When we tell the stories we have selected, let's do so with verve. We don't need to be at max power all of the time, but at certain key junctures, we need to rev up the engine and go hard. Watching Suga, you felt like this guy never gets out of first gear and the engine is barely ticking over. Until we can find the techniques for bringing energy to our talks, we should refrain from giving them, because the world doesn't need another energy assassin roaming free. We should get coaching, get the training, work hard, and put a lot of emphasis on rehearsal. No one is born as a great presenter. It is a learnt skill, and one we can achieve if we give it the priority it deserves. Never forget, once we get up to speak, our personal and professional brands are in jeopardy. Suga will leave the Prime Ministership a total nobody and will soon be forgotten, except perhaps as an abject lesson in what not to do. We don't want to join that crowd, do we? Let's bring our enthusiasm to our subject and inject it into our audience, thereby adding to our reputation and making the whole exercise a personal branding triumph. Thank you for joining the Presentations Japan series. If you got value from today's show, spread the love around and share it with your family, friends, and colleagues. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast. Immediately apply what you have learned today, use it, and go out there and become a presentations legend. Remember, I'm your corporate coaching and training guy in your corner, committed to your success here in Nippon.